My name is Tina Tucker. I'm 32 years old. And for as long as I can remember, I've been the one people call when something breaks. Not because I'm loud, not because I enjoy control, but because I learned early that if I didn't fix things myself, no one else would. I moved out at 20. Not with applause or tearful hugs, but with a quiet understanding that from then on, everything would be on me. Rent, tuition, groceries, health insurance, every single safety net other people my age leaned on. I built mine from scratch. I worked my way into finance, took extra shifts, said no to vacations, said yes to responsibility long before I was ready. And somehow, that didn't earn me peace. It earned me a role, the fixer, the dependable one, the person everyone assumes will catch them when they fall, whether I volunteer or not. That's why when my phone lit up that afternoon and I saw Mom on the screen, my chest tightened before I even answered. My mother, Catherine, doesn't call just to talk. She doesn't check in. She doesn't ask how my day's been or if I'm eating well. When Catherine Tucker calls, it's because something has gone wrong, and she expects me to make it right. I hesitated, then answered. "Tina," she said, her voice oddly bright, too bright. "Hi." That alone told me this wasn't casual. She launched into small talk, clumsy, forced, like she was reading from a script she didn't rehearse enough. "How's work?" she asked. "Still doing that finance thing?" I almost smiled. She'd ignored my career for over a decade, but suddenly it mattered. "Yeah, Mom," I replied evenly. "Still finance. What's going on?" There was a pause, a breath. Then she dropped it. "Your sister is in trouble." I wish I could say I was surprised. I wasn't. My younger sister, Megan, 29, has spent most of her adult life outrunning consequences while someone else cleaned up behind her. Usually me. Her mistakes were never small. They came with invoices, paperwork, apologies I made on her behalf. I flashed back instantly to the night she took my car without asking and crashed it while texting. She'd called me crying, hysterical, saying she didn't know what to do. I left work early, dealt with the insurance company, paid the deductible, and told myself it was a one-time thing. It wasn't. Then there was the apartment. She begged me to co-sign because she just needed help getting started. 4 months later, she stopped paying rent, disappeared on the landlord, and moved back home like it was no big deal. I spent months repairing my credit while she shrugged and said, "It worked out, didn't it?" It always worked out. For her. Because someone else paid. So when Mom said Megan was in trouble, I didn't feel panic. I felt tired. "What kind of trouble?" I asked. Not because I wanted to help, but because I wanted to know how bad this one was going to be. "She owes money," Mom said quickly. "A lot." "How much?" I asked. Another pause. Longer this time. $46,000. I repeated it silently in my head. 46,000. "How does someone even do that?" I asked. Mom rushed through the explanation like speed might make it sound reasonable. Credit cards maxed out, personal loans, borrowed money from people who weren't exactly patient. People you don't just ignore. And then, inevitably, came the solution. "You're doing well," she said. "You could help her. Just pay it off." Just? As if she were asking me to pick up groceries. I let out a short laugh, sharp and disbelieving. "No," I said. "I'm not paying that." The silence that followed felt heavy, like the air before a storm. Then her voice hardened. "She's your sister, Tina. Family helps family." I closed my eyes. "Family doesn't take advantage of each other," I said. "And I've helped her before. What changed?" "She's not like you," Mom snapped. "She's not as strong. She can't handle this." There it was, the old comparison. I'd always been the strong one, the capable one, the one expected to absorb more because I could. "You can afford it," she continued. "After everything we've done for you, this is the least you can do." I felt something twist in my chest. "Done for me?" I asked quietly. "You charged me rent the minute I turned 20. You refused to help with tuition. You told me independence would build character, so don't rewrite history now." Her tone shifted, sharper, desperate. "If you don't help her," she said, "we'll have to cut you off." I almost smiled. "From what?" I asked. "I have been on my own for 12 years. She didn't answer. I ended the call. For a moment there was silence, real silence. No buzzing phone, no accusations, no guilt. I stood there staring at the wall, feeling something unfamiliar settle in my chest. Not relief, awareness. I'd finally said no, and I knew, deep down, that they weren't going to accept it. This wasn't the end. It was the moment everything changed. Because when you stop being useful, people who only valued you for what you provide don't get sad. They get angry. And my family was just getting started. The first day after I hung up on my mother, I actually slept through the night. No buzzing phone, no knot in my stomach, no mental rehearsal of excuses. Just quiet. And for a few hours the next morning, I let myself believe, stupidly, that maybe they'd finally take no as a complete sentence. By noon, the first text arrived. Mom, I don't understand how you can let this happen to your sister. I stared at it, thumb hovering over the screen. The message was short, but it carried years of expectation behind it, like I was a lever she could pull and my life would shift into place to accommodate theirs. I didn't respond. 10 minutes later, Mom, do you even know the kind of people Megan is dealing with? They're dangerous, Tina. I can't sleep. Still no response. Then came the voice message. Catherine had a special talent for sounding like she was holding back tears, even when she wasn't. It was always the same performance. Trembling breath, soft voice, a pause placed precisely where guilt was supposed to bloom. Tina, she whispered, your sister might not make it out of this if you don't help. I don't think I could live with myself if something happened to her. I listened twice. The second time, I noticed something that made my jaw tighten. Not once did she say Megan made a mistake. Not once did she say Megan needs to fix this. It was all framed like an accident, and I was the only person with a fire extinguisher. By evening, my dad joined in. My father, David, usually stayed quiet in family drama. He was the type to hover in the background, nodding along, letting my mother do the emotional heavy lifting while he benefited from the outcome. But this time, he left a voicemail. Hey, Tina, he began, too calm. Just calling to check in. A beat. Then the real reason. Look, your mom can come on strong, but this is serious. Megan's in deep. We can't fix this without you. You've always been the dependable one. Don't let us down now. Dependable. That word hit me like a slap. Not because it was inaccurate, because it was used like a chain. I'd spent my entire life being dependable, and all it ever meant was, you can handle more, so you should. I didn't call back. And that's when they did what my parents always did when my boundaries held. They brought in reinforcements. The next morning, my phone rang with a number I hadn't seen in years. Uncle Jake. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. The minute I picked up, I heard the syrupy friendliness in his voice. Tina, long time no talk. How's life? He sounded like we were close, like he hadn't skipped my last 2 birthdays without a text. I let him ramble, let him ask about work, let him pretend this wasn't a chore he'd been assigned. Then he slid into it, smooth as oil. You know, family is important, he said, and Megan's struggling. Sometimes we all go through rough patches, right? Sometimes we need a little help. Jake, I cut in. My voice came out sharper than I intended. Did my mom put you up to this? A chuckle. Awkward. Caught. Well, she might have mentioned... Okay. I exhaled slowly. Then let me be clear. I'm not paying Megan's debt. Silence. Then he tried again. But Tina, she's your sister. And $46,000 is not my responsibility, I finished. She borrowed it. She spent it. She chose the people she borrowed from. She didn't choose to get in trouble. She chose every step that led there, I said, and my voice stayed calm only because rage was too expensive to spend on him. I hung up before he could keep going. I thought that would be it. Then came Aunt Lindsay. Then Cousin Sarah. Then a number I didn't recognize that turned out to be a second cousin I'd met twice at weddings. They all used the same script, different voices, same lines. Megan is in danger. Family helps family. You're the only one who can save her. Not one of them said, I'll contribute. Not one of them said, Megan should take responsibility. Their help always came in the form of volunteering me. And as the calls stacked up, something ugly clicked into place in my head. This wasn't about Megan anymore. This was about my parents losing control of the one thing that had always made their lives easier. Me. By day 4, the smear campaign began. I'd left the family group chat years ago, but word still traveled. It always did. A cousin I still trusted, Ryan, called me late one night. Tina, he said, and his tone was cautious, like he was stepping into a minefield. I figured you should know. Your mom's been talking. My stomach dropped, even though I already knew. What kind of talking? She told Aunt Lindsay you said Megan deserved whatever happens to her, he said. She's telling people you've forgotten where you came from, that you're too busy with your city life to care about family. I gripped the phone tighter. I never said that, I said, voice low. I didn't say anything like that. I know, Ryan said quickly. I believed you. It's getting messy. Messy didn't even begin to cover it, because it wasn't just gossip, it was strategy. If they could make me the villain, they could justify anything they did next. And the worst part? It worked on some people. Relatives who hadn't checked on me in years suddenly felt entitled to judge me. like they'd been present for the whole story. Like they'd watched me scrub Megan's messes off my life with my bare hands. Like they'd seen my credit drop because of her. Like they'd seen me sitting at my kitchen table at midnight, calculating how much helping family had cost me over the years. No one saw that. They just saw the headline my mother fed them. Tina refuses to help her sister. Tina is selfish. Then Megan finally entered the arena. Until then, she'd been silent. No texts, no calls. For a second, I thought maybe she was ashamed. I should have known better. Her first message hit my phone at 11:47 p.m. like a punch. Megan, I can't believe how selfish you're being. I stared at the screen, waiting for the part where she begged, where she apologized, where she admitted she'd screwed up. It never came. Megan, you know I'm in serious trouble and you're just doing nothing. You're supposed to be my sister. My sister. As if that word automatically meant I owed her my life. I didn't respond. The next morning, she escalated. Megan, you have the money. Stop acting like it's a big deal. Just pay it off, and I'll pay you back when I can. When I can. Like she was offering me a fair deal instead of a fantasy. I didn't respond. That silence must have infuriated her, because she exploded into long, rambling texts, paragraphs of blame, panic, entitlement, and then one line stopped me cold. Megan, Mom and Dad always said you'd come around eventually. Guess they were wrong. My throat tightened. Not because it hurt, because it confirmed everything I'd suspected. They hadn't raised Megan to be accountable. They'd raised her to believe I was inevitable, that no matter how hard she fell, I'd be there underneath her like a mattress. And now, because I wasn't moving the way they expected, my entire family was circling me like I'd committed the crime. That night, I sat in my apartment, the city lights reflecting off my window like distant stars, and for the first time in years, I asked myself a question I'd avoided. What happens if I stop being the fix? The answer arrived fast, heavy, and unmistakable. They would do anything to force me back into my role. Anything. And I didn't know it yet, but they were already planning the next step. I thought ignoring them would slow things down. That if I stopped responding, stopped feeding the machine, it would eventually sputter out. I was wrong. 3 days after Megan's last text, my phone rang while I was at work. The caller ID wasn't family. It wasn't a familiar number at all. It was my bank. I stepped into an empty conference room, already irritated, already bracing for bad news. Ms. Tucker, the woman on the line said calmly, professionally. This is the Fraud Prevention Department. We're calling to alert you to some suspicious activity on your account. My stomach dropped. What kind of activity? I asked. There was an attempted access using documentation that didn't match our records, she explained. Someone tried to change your contact information and initiate a transfer. The system flagged it and blocked the request. For a second, I couldn't speak. Who? I finally asked. I'm afraid I can't disclose that, she said. But based on the information submitted, it appears to be someone with personal knowledge of your identity. Personal knowledge. Someone close. I didn't need confirmation. I already knew. Megan, the timing was too perfect, the desperation too fresh, and the entitlement, God, the entitlement, suddenly made terrifying sense. When the call ended, I stood there, staring at the blank wall, my pulse pounding in my ears. This wasn't guilt-tripping anymore. This wasn't manipulation. This was a crime. I left work early. I didn't text, didn't call, didn't warn her. I drove straight to Megan's apartment, my hands tight on the steering wheel, anger simmering so hot it felt cold. When she opened the door, her face shifted, just for a split second. Surprise, then irritation. What are you doing here? She asked, folding her arms like I was the problem. You tried to steal from me, I said flatly. Her expression hardened. I don't know what you're talking about. I let out a breath through my nose. Don't, I said. The bank called. Someone submitted fake documents to access my account. They tried to move money. That someone was you. Her eyes flicked away for half a second, long enough. Then she shrugged. Oh my God, relax, Tina, she said. It's not like I actually got anything. I stared at her. Do you hear yourself? I asked quietly. Your defense is just that you failed? She rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic. What else was I supposed to do? She snapped. You left me no choice. No choice. That phrase cracked something open in me. You had choices, I said, my voice shaking despite myself. You could have admitted you screwed up. You could have faced it. You could have figured it out like an adult. Instead, you tried to take from me. She scoffed. Don't act all high and mighty. Mom and Dad said you'd never let me struggle. They said you'd come around eventually if I pushed hard enough. There it was. The truth. Bare, ugly. My parents had promised her my obedience. They'd trained her to believe my boundaries were temporary obstacles, not real lines. I felt something settle in my chest then. Not rage. Clarity. You crossed a line, I said, a big one. She leaned against the doorframe, completely unbothered. I'm not the villain here, she said. You are. If you'd just helped me in the first place, none of this would have happened. That was it. The last thread snapped. I stepped back, my voice eerily calm. If you ever try something like this again, I won't warn you. I won't argue. I'll go straight to the police. She laughed, actually laughed. You wouldn't. Try me, I said. I turned and walked away before she could respond. I sat in my car for a long time after that, hands shaking, staring at nothing. I kept thinking the same thing over and over. They taught her this. My parents didn't just enable her, they empowered her. They made her believe my life, my work, my money, all of it, belonged to her if she needed it badly enough. That night, my phone lit up again. Mom! I didn't answer. The voicemail came seconds later. Tina, Catherine said sharply. No tears this time. Megan told me what happened. I can't believe you threatened her. She's struggling, and instead of helping, you're making things worse. You should be ashamed. I listened once, then again, and with every replay, one truth became unavoidable. In their story, I would always be wrong, even when I was the victim. I called my bank immediately and locked everything down. New passwords, two-factor authentication, extra alerts. I wasn't giving anyone another opportunity. For a few days, things went quiet. Too quiet. I should have known better, because my parents never accept no. And sure enough, when I pulled into my driveway after work one evening and saw their car parked there, my stomach didn't lurch. It hardened. I sat in my car for a minute, breathing slowly, preparing myself. This wasn't a visit. It was an ambush. And whatever they were about to try next, I already knew it wouldn't be pretty. I didn't get out of the car right away. I just sat there, engine ticking softly, staring at my parents' sedan in my driveway like it had every right to be there. It didn't, but boundaries had never meant much to them. Eventually, I stepped out and walked toward the house. My mother was already waiting by the door, arms crossed, posture stiff, like she was preparing to deliver a lecture she'd rehearsed in her head the entire drive over. My father stood a few steps behind her, eyes on the ground. He always looked like that during confrontations. Present, but absent, as if staying quiet absolved him of responsibility. We need to talk, Mom said the moment I got close. No, I replied calmly, we don't. She scoffed and followed me inside anyway. This has gone on long enough, she said, voice rising as she stepped into my living room. We are your parents. Megan is your sister. This isn't how families behave. I set my bag down slowly and turned to face her. Family doesn't lie, I said. Family doesn't steal. And family doesn't try to manipulate one person into sacrificing everything while another faces zero consequences. My father finally spoke. This isn't about taking sides, Tina. It's about fixing things. I let out a bitter laugh. Fixing things? You mean paying Megan's debt, pretending she didn't try to commit fraud, and moving on like always? She's struggling, Mom snapped. Do you know what it would do to her if something happened? And do you know what it's done to me? I shot back. The words poured out then, every buried resentment, every swallowed moment. You raised her to expect rescue. You raised me to absorb damage. And now you're angry because I won't keep playing my part. Mom's face turned red. If you don't help her, then we'll have no choice but to cut ties with you. No holidays, no family gatherings, nothing. I looked at her, truly looked. And I realized something surprising. It wasn't a threat. It was an offer. I've been on my own my entire life, I said quietly. You cutting me off is like firing someone who already quit. She opened her mouth to argue, but my dad touched her arm. Catherine, stop. She yanked away from him, glaring at me as she stormed toward the door. You'll regret this, she said venomously. Mark my words. I opened the door wide. Get out. She froze. Excuse me? Get out, I repeated. This conversation is over. They left. The house went silent. And for the first time, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt clean. A few days later, curiosity got the better of me. I reached out to a mutual acquaintance, someone still loosely connected to Megan. The update was grim. The people she owes trashed her car, the friend said. Windows smashed, tires slashed. She's terrified. I felt nothing. No panic, no guilt, just exhaustion. Then came the letter. An envelope from a law firm, thick with audacity. My parents were threatening legal action, claiming I had a moral obligation to help family. They wanted me to pay Megan's debt and were prepared to take me to court. I stared at the page, numb. Then I laughed. I called my lawyer. He skimmed it and shook his head. They don't have a case, he said. Not even close. That was enough. That same day, I blocked my parents' numbers. Megan's too. Social media, email, everything. No cracks, no exceptions. I warned the relatives I trusted, especially Ryan, that lies were coming. Some believed me, some didn't. I stopped caring. Weeks passed, then months. The chaos faded. Ryan eventually told me Megan filed for bankruptcy. I wasn't surprised. The holidays came, and for the first time, I spent them with people who didn't expect anything from me except my presence. Friends, laughter, peace. And somewhere in that quiet, I realized something important. Walking away didn't make me cruel. It made me free.